Welcome back, Commanders. My name is Alchrist, and today I'll be briefing you on your brand new T-Doll, the motherly figure of Squad 404, Andoris. Andoris is a bulwark rifle-wielding turret summoning T-Doll. She deals electric damage and is quite good at sustaining the team. She can apply both negative and positive charges onto enemies to support electric T-Dolls. She also summons auto turrets onto the field to attack and hinder enemies. I will mention that in all my guides, I'll be referring to Confected's index as skill points, since this is much easier to understand. Andoris' main skill point generation mechanic is tied to a passive, delayed response. Whenever Andoris takes damage, she will recover 5% of her HP, gain 1 skill point, and both her and her turrets will gain a stack of blunted nerves. Blunted nerves will increase their defense by 10% for each stack, and this can stack up to 5 times. If Andoris isn't getting a cover bonus, she will use up one of her stability to reduce damage by 20% from incoming attacks. Her passive also grants a buff at the start of battle called Self-Diagnosis, which can trigger once every 3 turns. This allows her to revive upon taking fatal damage, reviving with 30% of her max HP and 5 stability while removing any debuffs. Any ally with a positive charge buff that takes damage, Andoris will take about half of it instead, allowing her to take some damage away from her allies. Andoris will also recover 20% of her HP whenever she attacks an enemy with negative charge. Andoris' basic attack is Practice Shot. It has a range of 7 and deals physical damage equal to 80% of her attack and reducing 4 stability. Andoris' active skill 1 is Gentle Offensive, which costs 3 skill points. She summons an auto turret within 3 tiles of her. She can cast this twice, one after another, and have a maximum of 2 turrets on the field. Summoning more than 2 will automatically destroy a previous one. The turrets themselves will summon with half of Andoris' HP and attack, or with all of her defense. They cannot be healed or shielded either. However, they will not be actively attacked by enemies. At the end of Andoris' turn, they will attack one enemy within 6 tiles and deals electric damage equal to 100% of their attack and reducing 1 stability. They will also then apply the negative charge debuff to them. Negative charge has 3 effects. First, when an enemy with negative charge takes electric damage, all enemies on the field with negative charge will also suffer 30% of that damage. Second, if the enemy already has a stack of negative charge, and then they receive another one, they will straight up suffer 3% of fixed damage equal to the player's attack. And third, those with a positive charge buff will deal more damage to them. If a turret gets destroyed, Andoris will also recover 1 skill point. Andoris' active skill 2 is Streamline Tactics, which has no cost or cooldown. She targets an enemy up to 7 tiles away, and deals electric damage equal to 110% of her attack and reducing 3 stability. She'll also apply an electric charge debuff to them for 2 turns. Any doll that deals electric damage to an enemy with electric charge will result in an extra point of stability dealt, as well as recovering HP equal to 20% of the damage dealt. Andoris' ultimate is Fortification Protocol, which has a 2-turn cooldown. She will immediately recover 8 stability, applies 2 stacks of shelter to herself, and gains Fortified Stance for 2 turns. All allies will also receive positive charge buff for 3 turns. Fortified Stance will remove Andoris' cover bonuses, will reduce all damage by 20% and negates 2 stability damage. If an enemy that attacks Andoris has an electric debuff, damage is further reduced by another 15%. The positive charge buff that all allies get will heal them for 20% of their HP at the end of their turns. If there is an ally within 3 tiles that also have the positive charge buff, the heal is increased to 35%. They'll also deal 35% more electric damage to an enemy with negative charge. When deploying Andoris on the field, the key element to playing her is setting up turrets and taking the front lines. The more attacks she takes, the more skill points she will generate. Her passive is incredible at keeping her and her team alive, as any enemies that go past Andoris to attack an ally, Andoris will take half that damage for them. She has really strong defense with a passive and positive charge, and she doesn't really need to hide behind cover and mainly uses her stability to mitigate even more damage. When it comes to her base rotation, on turn 1, start with her active skill 1 to set up 2 turrets. On turn 2, use active skill 2 to apply electro charge. On turn 3, use ultimate to refresh positive charge on her allies. And then use active skill 2 each turn with using ultimate on cooldown. Fill in active skill 1 whenever you need to reposition the turrets or resummon them if they were destroyed. On to her pros and cons. As mentioned, she has incredible defensive buffs, and can even give consistent heals to her team. and even if she is taken down, she can get right back up again. She adds a lot of utility to electric teams. She applies both positive and negative charge, which increases overall electric damage. Electro charge also increases stability damage and adds more healing. Because each turret is a targeted attack, she can trigger action supports really well. And she can survive all on her own without a dedicated sustain, giving a slot for another DPS. And she can use her turrets in critical locations to block enemy pathways. As for her cons, she honestly doesn't have any real cons. I can nitpick her low damage, but as a bulwark that also saves the sustain slot, I think that's a pretty good deal. Andoris' best weapon is a signature, Exilium. It has attack boost, and its trait can reduce incoming damage. Warming Care increases electric damage for all allies by 10%, and at the end of her actions, she'll recover 5% of her HP. If she has a positive charge, Andoris and her turrets will deal more damage. No other elite weapons stand out, so you can use any for its base stats. If you don't have any spare elite weapons, you can use her namesake, the G36K. It has the same damage reduction trait as her signature, and she will deal more damage to any enemies with negative charge. When it comes to her attachments, her best stats are HP percent, defense percent, HP, and then defense. The higher her defense values, the more she will pass on to her turrets, and the less likely you will need to bring a dedicated sustain. When it comes to which attachment sets the farm, you can use the ally support attachment to further increase her defensive stats. But if you really don't need her defensive stats, you can use Phase Strike, increasing damage against enemies with a phase debuff, which is essentially all the time with Andoris. When it comes to her fixed keys, the best ones to obtain are 201, Careful Listening, starting her at max skill points so she can immediately summon 2 turrets. 601, Shared Intelligence, at the start of battle she'll grant all allies positive charge. This allows her to wait till turn 3 to use her ultimate. And 603, Advanced Scouting, she'll automatically apply Electro Charge to the highest HP enemy at the start of battle. She can use 401, Slow and Steady, if you need a debuffer. Fixed keys 203 and 403 are situational and are not recommended for a core build. Her common key is Inductive Field. At the start of turn, increases damage for each electric debuff on the field, capping at 10%, which would be a good key for an electric DPS if it wasn't for that defense boost stat. Other common keys she can steal are Springfield's Meticulous Attention, giving stability regen if not at max stability at the start of turn, or Xiaomi's Mission Blessing, giving defense boost when dropping below 80% HP. Otherwise, any common key that increases HP or defense will work. Next, we'll have a quick look at the Fortifications. V1 looks like a lot, but essentially, Andoris can drop a turret 1 tile further, and the turrets have 1 extra range. The turrets will now deal 30% more electric damage, and its new passive allows them to perform 1 support action after an ally deals electric damage within their range. At V2, her ultimate now does a super recovery, restoring all stability while recovering 20% of her HP and removing all debuffs. Not only that, but she now offers added utility, giving allies with positive charge a movement up and damage up buffs. At V3, Andoris will prevent 1 stability damage when attacked. Also, her attack and her turret's attack is increased by 30% of Andoris' initial defense, and if her turrets are attacked, they will now produce a stack of blunted nerves on both themselves and Andoris. The buff itself will now increase defense by 20% for each stack and can be stacked up to 8 times. This can now get up to 160% defense buff, which is quite insane. At V4, she starts with 6 more stability, and upon taking fatal damage, she will now revive with 60% of her HP, or stability, and gains fortified stance for 2 rounds. At V5, enemies with the Electro Charge will now pass that debuff to any other enemy within 3 tiles of them at the end of their turn. Electric damage taken is also increased by another 15%. And at V6, Andoris can now set up 3 turrets, and turrets only cost 2 skill points. Andoris will also get extra command after summoning a turret to perform any action right away. And for each turret on field, allies will get a 10% electric damage boost. To finish off, we'll have a quick look at suitable teammates to fit along Andoris. She pairs well with any electric key doll, as she can amplify their damage. Right now we have 2 other electric key dolls, Mosin Nagant, who always has access to electric damage, and Belka, who also benefits off the negative charge debuff. Jiang Yu is another electric doll coming out very soon, and she's had a recent rework to make her kit stronger. More on her when she comes out. Outside of them, there is QJ, who always pairs well with any T-doll that can deal multiple instances of targeted damage per turn, as QJ will follow up after each of Andoris' turrets attack. There are more electric T-dolls to come, but as always, until we get an official announcement of their arrival, I'll leave them out for now. Otherwise, Andoris is a solid tank and sustain for most team lineups. Here are some examples of team compositions. Since she can't build a full team of electric T-dolls, she can actually work within the burn team. And that about wraps up this character briefing for Andoris. I hope this guide helps, and if you have any other suggestions on a build of teammates, make sure to leave a comment below. Until next time, Commanders,